Well, lawmakers on Capitol Hill are turning their attention to global warming, and new bills call for limits on greenhouse gases and would allow polluters to buy and trade emission credits, actually. That debate actually begins on Monday. So we want to talk about the impact that this new legislation would have on the environment and the economy. Joining me to talk about it, Howard Gould, conservationist, green entrepreneur, and co-founder of Equator Environmental. Whew, that's a lot to get out so early in the morning. I'm sorry. It's a complex. That's okay. Did I say it correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay, good. Let's just get right down to the cap and trade system and give us the nutshell on why you believe this is the way to go.
Well, in a nutshell, I mean, a cap-and-trade system is basically emissions targets are going to be released by the government to particular companies, and if they release over their emissions, they can sell those to other companies that are releasing under those emissions. Now, the objective of that is to lessen the amount of emissions per year, so those cap numbers will come down over time. So essentially, this market that we're talking about now potentially could be the largest market ever created in the world. And certainly the largest commodity market. So it's very, very important that we get this right.
Meanwhile, well, the question is, then how do you get it right? Because you've got big businesses and you've got the coal industry that are opposed to this legislation going, this is not the right timing. This is going to kill the economy.
Well, I think what we have to also remember that this isn't kind of a decision, do we do this or do we not? We're in a state right now where we're surpassing the worst case models for climate change. We don't really have a choice. We need to lessen the emissions. So we're trying to figure out what would be the best possible solution for this. So it's not a do we do this, do we not decision. We have no choice.
Even here we are, $4 a gallon, practically for we're almost there with regard to gas or electricity bill. Yeah, unfortunately is right. Electricity bills sky high. Are we in a recession or not? That's debatable. I mean, are we in a position right now to adopt those new standards?
Well, I think that we have to look carefully at what's happening. I mean, gas prices with these kind of new standards may spike, but these bills account for that. For low and middle income housing, there'll be tax rebates back to them for these spiking energy prices. But also what it's going to do is it's going to stimulate in the use of alternate fuels such as biodiesel and proper uses of ethanol. And so those kind of prices are going to spike initially, and then they'll come back down on the back end of this. So ultimately, when we look long term, we'll be in a much better situation than we are now.
All right. Meanwhile, I want to just get your opinion on this new study. The cost of not doing something about climate change could be even much more costly if you, according to this survey and looking at these numbers. $950 billion in increased water costs because of increased drought conditions, $422 billion in damages in Atlantic and Gulf Coast states from more intense hurricanes, $360 billion in real estate losses because of rising sea levels, $141 billion in increased energy costs, mainly for air conditioning because of higher temps. Yeah. I mean, tremendous numbers. What can you buy into this?
Well, I think the fact that what we're doing, I mean, the United States is the largest emitter, or it's the second largest emitter. China actually just overtook us. But if we can alleviate any of these things, I mean, imagine if we could alleviate climate change and it stopped a Katrina from happening, it's well worth the expense. So, you know, as you read off, I mean, these types of things are catastrophically expensive, and we need to do something to change the trajectory that we are on right now. And this is kind of the best situation that we've got. Europe and the rest of the world is way, way ahead of us on this. And so we can learn from their mistakes, and hopefully we can build something that makes sense.
Yeah, even Tony Blair lashing out and giving us a hard time that we're not doing enough about global warming.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be the biggest thing that anybody's ever seen right now. It's this kind of gathering storm that's on the horizon, and it's coming.
Howard Gould, appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.
All right, John.